So we must do two things, two great things together to encompass that enormous new view that lies before us, but to encompass it within the framework of science, to see it within the whole categorical framework of science, and to see that these two are not separate, but that they are wedded. The bigness of the idea, the newness of the idea, the greatness of it is one with the structure of science, the structure of being itself.
You can just imagine yourself working through these big questions, and a suggestion comes up and you say, well, no, it says in the textbook, or it says in the Bible, thus and so and so. And so you're relieved of that, you have resolved that. And then another suggestion comes up and it says, yes, but it also says in the Bible, it also says thus and so and thus and so. And those two seem to be contradictory. Isn't that how we are? Huh? Aren't we constantly sort of wrestling and working? Yes, but doesn't it say here, so and so and so? And it requires our greater and greater understanding, our higher and higher understanding of science in all its categories and all its levels and standpoints, and all the four aspects of the calculus, all the 7 of the synonymous terms, all the 4 levels. We need to be groomed and groomed and groomed in that till that just becomes our identity principle. And when we have that, then there are no doubts, there are no questions, there are no contradictions. It's all there in its science to be, every question to be answered. And so when the devil comes back and says, for it is written, that's what that experience is. It is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Sounds right, huh? Sounds like it came from the Bible, yeah, from Psalms, from the 91st Psalm. And yet, Jesus could see that this was the temptation that we all have to work out, the temptation to use the spiritual for material means. So Jesus said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. So that's the second temptation. The first temptation really to ask, what is it that sustains you? Do you need to use spiritual means for material purposes in order to be sustained, in order to be carried, in order to be carried forward in your mission now as you go on in your mission? What is it that will sustain you? Boy, is that ever a big question. You know, that really does come up in one's life when you are on the verge of giving up all material means of sustenance and maintenance and income to trust. That actually was my experience many, many years ago, to come to that point where I would leave my human career, so to speak, and trust life alone to sustain me, to carry me. And all these points come up. It says, well, how are you going to pay the electric bill? How are you going to pay the rent? How are you going to make the car payment? How will you have enough to do this and do that and do all the things that are natural, normal, everyday things. And one really did have to work that out over before launching into that which was new. One had to be absolutely clear about life and the relationship to life. I hadn't realized that really comes up here as the impulsion of life to do that one must do it. You just cannot rely on anything else. What sustains me? What maintains me? So he was being asked, do you see that word of life, that word of God, is everything, will supply everything to you, will sustain you, and that word of God, that thou art my beloved Son, and all that it implies is enough for you. That's full, that's rich, that's fulfillment itself, and it contains your infinite provision for your mission. You have that provision for your mission, and nothing can take that away from you. And I just have to say that, there have been a few, what would you say, rocky places in the road, but all in all, one has never looked back. One would never go back. I can't imagine, I couldn't dream of going back to where I was before that decision. So that's, you see, something that's very, very practical. It isn't ethereal at all, what's going on in this third tone. It's practical, and we see that in soul as spirit, that how soul strengthens us. He just strengthens and strengthens with each additional temptation. Then we come really to the third temptation, and that third is coming in at the subtone of soul. So we're at soul as soul. What happens here? Do you recall what we have at soul as soul? It's a big, important point. Come on. Soul as soul.
All the kingdoms of the world.
Yes, but it's where the... Yes. We change now. There's a change from the Word as the Word to the Word as the Christ. So now we get the temptation coming into consciousness, that little devil in consciousness that taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain. It shows him a big calculus, a big mortal calculus, a material calculus. That's what a mountain always is, a high mountain, a big mountain. Showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them. The glory of them. And saith unto him, all these things will I give to thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. It's still this wrestling, this process of defining rightly what one's principle is and what oneself is. Then saith Jesus unto him, get thee hence, Satan. You hear the Christ? Huh? You hear how different that is? It's no more this, well, it is written, and this sort of bantering back and forth and talking back and forth with that aspect in consciousness. It says, that's it. You're out of here. You're gone. This is now the point of soul as soul. And you will see that from this point on now, having dealt with that claim of the kingdoms, all the kingdoms of the world, that he can identify totally with thy kingdom, with the one kingdom, with the kingdom of heaven, you see. Isn't it interesting that in the Lord's Prayer it's the third tone of soul that is all to do with thy kingdom come, thy kingdom come, thy kingdom is come, thou art ever present, you hear? See, this is a law of complete annihilation to the claim of there being any other kingdoms. We were referring also to that, lead us not into temptation. You know, the spiritual interpretation of the Lord's Prayer says, God leadeth us not into temptation, but delivereth us from evil. That's what's going on. It's delivering us from evil, leading us really into our mission. Our identity, you see, is now being brought to the point of touching the full power of the expression of it in soul as soul. So we are delivered from the one evil, that there is something else beside the Word of God. All goes back to the Word of God, that this is our deliverer. It became really his subjective identity, didn't it? His oneness with the Word. It was subjective identity to him then. The moment you can say, that's it, out, you know. And when that devil is out, there's only the one, and it's a subjective, complete identity with God, with soul. This is, of course, under the impulsion of truth. You see, it is truth that is coming in at the point of soul as soul. So he was to fall back on his oneness with the Scriptures, strengthening in the Word of God to such a degree that every experience was an experience of being subjectively one then with the Word of God. Just terrific. You'll see that throughout now his career in the tones of principle, life, truth, and love, that was always his standpoint, and he never deviated from it. He never changed from that.